Russell.
What's up, folks? KC and Pari here, coming at you with another episode, something slightly different. KC and I are now both together here, interacting with one another, giving you that same energy and feeding off each other. Let us know what you think, but I'll go ahead and hand it off to KC.
Yep. Thank you very much, Pri. Good to see you. You know what I'm saying? Always a pleasure to be in the booth with you here, virtually or otherwise.
Likewise.
Glad we're staying safe. Yeah, we had 3 games on the NBA slate tonight in the association. I'll start it off with the Los Angeles Clippers visiting the Atlanta Hawks. This was thought to be a pretty good matchup until, unfortunately, Paul George, as well as Kawhi Leonard and Patrick Beverley were all ruled out of the game. Entering the game, the Clippers were on fire with a 7-game winning streak and elite offensive metrics during that win streak. They're actually top 2 in the league currently in offensive efficiency. The Hawks were also looking to stay hot with Trae Young leading the way. He's second in the league. He was coming into the game. He was second in the league in free throw attempts, just getting to the charity stripe early and often. And the Hawks have really surprised this year. They got a young team, but they're looking good and playing hard. They still have a couple things to figure out defensively, but offensively, they seem to be clicking. The first half was rather surprising. The Clippers, without their stars, really didn't see much of a drop-off. They were playing hard defense, outscoring the Hawks at a pretty nice clip. Serge Ibaka was doing very well with drop-offs coming from Lou Williams, as well as Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson was definitely doing his thing with a lot more time on the ball. And I was kind of surprised to see that. He's really playing well out there for the Clippers. Ever since he got out of, I think it was Detroit, he's really been playing a lot better for the Clippers, both for Doc Rivers last year after the midseason move, and this year he seems to be coming into his own. The Clippers did lead at half, 48-43, which was a poor shooting performance from the Hawks. However, early in the second half, the Hawks would get Trae Young would have 14 points in the third, sparking the comeback. The red-headed assassin, Kevin Huerter, gave the Hawks a lift in the fourth quarter, scoring all 13 of his points in that final frame and actually hitting 2 threes when the game was tied at 79 to give the Hawks the lead for good. This game was really about the Hawks getting hot from three-land in the second half. Both Kevin Huerter and Trae Young both had three-pointers, and the shot charts will really indicate that they just got on fire from outside and got it done. Again, Reggie Jackson did look good, especially in the first half. He would end the game with 20 points, 8 assists, and 7 boards. And the Clippers, without their stars, really spread it around. They actually had 7 Clippers in double figures. And Tyronn Lue had mentioned before the game that he was excited to see Terrence Mann, the Florida State product, get his first start of the season. He chipped in with 10 solid points, and he was really taking it to the hole a lot instead of settling for 3-pointers, which I was glad to see. But again, this story was all about Trae Young. The young man is just balling out there. 38 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, and I mentioned before, free throw again. He even outdid his average of 10 free throws a game, getting there 11 times and hitting all 11 to take the lead in the association for free throws made and free throws attempted this year.
Wait, so he
Second
was
year,
number 2, and this got him to number 1?
This got him to number 1, but he does have one more game than the second and third gentleman. I believe it's Joel Embiid and Damian Lillard are also up there, but yes, Trae Young does have one more game than that. DeAndre Hunter, second year man out of University of Virginia, had a standout game with 22 points, most of it in the second half. He's a true 3-and-D small forward, if you ask me.
He's doing really well, man.
He's doing really well. Exactly. Now he's improved the points per game. He was shooting the 3 ball very well this game. And if he's not shooting the 3, he's getting in the paint, which I always like to see. And side note, the Hawks did have 1,300 season ticket holders in the stands tonight, so it kind of gave them a little bit more of a lift.
Super spreader.
Yeah, right. Could be a super spreader event. We're hoping everyone stayed socially distanced out there. With 2 minutes left in the game, Trae Young actually hit a 31-foot 3-pointer, and he actually pointed at the LK tribute decal in the middle of the floor, and then flashed the numbers 2-4 with his hands to signify a tribute to Kobe Bryant. Let me get that 2-4. Better than 2-5. Yeah, so that was pretty dope. That was definitely a nice tribute. Just recognizing a man who contributed a lot to the game, and I'm sure had a heavy influence in Trae Young's formative years. Hawks would go on to win the game, and the Hawks' next game, they'll be at home again against the Nets on Wednesday, and the Clippers will continue their 6-game road trip at Miami on Thursday. But without their stars, I mean, we saw the Clippers more or less struggle offensively in the second half. They didn't have much when the Hawks got hot. The Clippers just really couldn't keep up, and that hot third quarter by Trae Young really kind of took over the game, and they sealed it in the fourth quarter once the other role players started to get going.
Wait, so all the Clippers are all
Mhm.
out because of the safety and protocol, right? It's not there isn't any injury.
That's true. Exactly. Yeah, it's safety protocols. So I'm gonna assume it was some sort of exposure, but they're actually not allowed to say that. So they just
Gotcha.
call it safety
HIPAA
and protocols
violations.
for those two. Exactly. I think Beverly though does have. I think it was knee soreness that he was out with, but for Kawhi and Paul George, it just said protocol and safety.
Gotcha.
The Clippers did what they could after the game. They weren't making any excuses. Zubac was talking about how other guys just got to step up in moments like this. I would say that in the first half, they absolutely did. I think defensively, they were very locked in. They were doing what they could to slow down Trae Young, but he was still kind of getting his, but they were slowing down everyone else pretty well. Yeah, I was happy to see a young Hawks team kind of going against a team that is pretty sound defensively, I would say, in the Clippers, and to really show that they know how to figure things out on the court through the game. If they have a bad quarter or two, they have no problem rectifying that in the second half, and they would win this one going away. I was happy to see John Collins looking good, DeAndre Hunter supporting very well for the Hawks as well, and like I said, Kevin Huerter, man, that guy, don't leave him open because he will knock it down. He doesn't have a problem with it. He was scoreless through three
I was gonna
quarters,
say like 0
and
for 5. I think I saw for at some point.
yeah, he was. Yeah, and he had some bad plays. Honestly, I think he tried to take one like one-handed softly to the rack, and it got swatted, rejected rather unceremoniously, if you ask me. But with that said, he knows what he does, and he does it well. You
Cam,
get him the
well,
ball
he
at the
usually
three-point line.
doesn't start though, right? It's Cam Reddish that starts.
That's true. Cam Reddish was actually hurt this game as well,
Yeah.
so he was out,
Was that
unfortunately.
safety
Yeah.
protocol, or is he's having some kind of?
But it's an Achilles injury for
Oh
him,
yeah,
actually.
don't
He's
play with
day to
that.
day. So. Yeah, you can't mess around with that, especially a young dude like Cam Reddish. Want to make sure he gets healthy before we put him back out there. Long career ahead of him,
Yeah, word.
hopefully. But they did look good tonight. I was impressed with the Hawks. I got to say, I have not been paying too much attention to them as a
They're
team,
fun
more
to
so
watch
just checking in
though.
on. Yeah, no, definitely fun to watch. They get the ball moving, and I mean, it's just impressive to watch what Trae Young can do on the floor. I'd also say that Trae Young is I don't know if it's the addition of Clint Capella. That could certainly be it. But the Hawks are playing better defensively when Trae Young's on the floor.
Sure.
I can't say that Trae Young himself is that much improved, but as a team, they are defending better. And I'm sure Clint Capella
Well,
has a lot to do
probably
with
a
that
lot
being.
less fast breaks because he's getting buckets.
Yeah, that too. I mean, when you're making shots, it's hard. It's hard to fast break the other way. I don't think the Clippers were really looking to fast break too much either. They kind of slow it down. They were slowing it down offensively this game, but with that said, they're just if they can improve even slightly defensively for the Hawks, their offense is becoming much more potent, especially as Trae Young's game is maturing. Whenever the Clippers would try to mount a run, Trae Young was getting to the free throw line to slow it down and just to add more points onto the lead.
How
So
many free throw
it
attempts did he
was
have?
11.
Dude,
Yeah.
there's an art to that, dude. And you know what's funny is that I was going to ask you about Lou Williams and and people training with him to learn how to get
Mhm.
to the free throw line.
The body control.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
That's a skill that I
No, I
think
think
more
he's going
people
to
should have to get.
I mean, yeah, speaking from Trae Young, from the Trae Young's point of view, every time he usually gets past his man at the top of the key with ease, but he doesn't just go flying past him and go straight to the rack unless there's a hole open, obviously. But he'll usually just put that guy in his back pocket and kind of feel that contact to make sure he can feel where he's at, and while he's trying to decide what he
And
wants to
seal
do,
him
whether he's
off.
going to drop it off. Exactly, seal him off. So the defender is basically immobilized because he's already making contact. Trae Young can get his shot off anytime he wants and probably get a foul off of that. And he did actually try a couple times to draw that contact. He got it a couple times, and when he doesn't get it, he will make a pass out and reset at the top of the key, get past his man again, and then we're going to the rim. So I got to agree, though, the Hawks are definitely a fun team to watch. I certainly enjoyed watching them this game. It was sad it wasn't closer at the end, and I was really glad to see Trae Young's tribute to Kobe. That was pretty dope. And the last thing to note is the Hawks floor looks really cool. If you haven't seen it yet, they have an awesome MLK tribute floor to make sure that we're remembering the man not just on one day a year, but for the entire season, for the contributions he's made, both to this country's history racially, but even just for the great man that he was spiritually as well, and leading a lot of people down there in Atlanta. So I was glad to see that. Take a look at the floor. It's an awesome tribute decal they got in the middle of the floor, and yeah, that kind of wraps it up. Unless you got something else to say, Perry.
No, man, the Hawks are fun to watch, man. Trey Young going for MVP, I guess. But I'll take over here from now. So in my duties here, I was watching the Wizards at Houston. Again, for most part, everyone thinks that it's G League team versus G League team. But I'll be happy to tell you it wasn't necessarily all that. So, um, question for you though, Casey. So if I told you a team was third
Yeah.
in points per game, fourth in assists, second in free throw attempts, and first in pace, who would you say? Which team was that? Houston or Washington?
Ooh, okay, you talking about first and pace? I mean, I guess off the top of my head, I think it's got to be the Wizards with Westbrook going crazy on it.
Exactly. It is the Wizards. But think about this.
Okay.
They're the third worst team in the NBA.
Yeah.
Bottom three. But they lead they're those are pretty good stats to be at the top of the league in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the catch to that though is on the defensive side. They are last in opponents' points per game. They are first in personal fouls, second in opponents' field goal percentage, and third last in defensive rating. So that is the reasoning why they're third worst in the NBA.
Not too surprising, but that pace, man, I'll get that's the only thing that keep me into the Wizards. I was thinking when you said pace, I was like, oh, that's all Westbrook right there.
Dude. But yeah. So, but anyway, the Wizards is pretty much the same circumstances as the Clippers. 7 Wizards were out due to their safety and protocols. Main ones: Ish Smith, Hachimura, and Bertans. Their center
Hmm.
got hurt early with ACL, or about a week or two ago. Thomas Bryant got his ACL torn, so they were really short-staffed. Bunch of G leaguers up playing, getting a lot of play time. On Houston side, Christian Wood was out still with the sprained ankle. Get well soon, having a phenomenal season, probably most improved. But the big headline here was that Beal and Wall were kind of getting a reunion. They met at half court prior to the game start, and did their traditional dap, as
Hey.
as the private school people might call it. And yeah, they were happy to see each other nonetheless. But to get down to what happened in the actual game, quarter one, first quarter, Beal and John Wall were hot. They were going off. Bradley Beal, damn, I forgot their coach's name. Scott, give me his name. The
Oh,
Wizards coach,
that used
the
to be
OKC
OKC.
coach,
Yeah, right.
Scott.
OKC
We'll
coach.
call him Scott Storch because that's the
Yeah.
name that I keep coming up with.
Scotty Brooks. Scotty Brooks.
Scotty Brooks. Okay, Scotty Brooks. Giving him a lot of action in the pick and roll with Robin Lopez in the first quarter. Of course, going to Bradley Beal's dominant hand, his right hand. They were setting the screen on the left side, going to his right hand, so he was pretty much coming down the middle of the lane, and he was instead of passing, he was obviously shooting or getting to the rack, or getting to the free throw line, and they were on fire. The Wizards were up maybe 7 at the end of the first quarter. Um, but John Wall obviously kept them somewhat in the game. He was going off too. For whatever reason, Westbrook nor Bradley Beal is guarding Wall. They have these no-name G leaguer dudes trying to guard him, and they're it looks as bad as maybe me being out there just on skates because John Wall still has the quickness. The first quarter highlight that did happen was Robert Lopez came off a pick and roll with Bradley on the right side of the court this time. Bradley Beal passed it with his left hand, bounce pass, 2 steps, and Boogie wanted to contest. Boom, got hemmed on, not chest
Oh,
to chest, but chest to shoulder.
oh
And
no.
it was one of I got quicker to the rack than you do because neither one of them are high flyers at this stage in their careers.
Gotcha.
But moving on to the second quarter, this is when Eric Gordon coming off the bench kind of took over. His deal. He's shooting threes and going to the free throw line, and he kind of just was doing it at will. And the Wizards benches, they don't have it together, right? So, yeah, he was going off on them. One highlight that was pretty sexy. Oladipo had a nice reverse layup going on the right side of the court, but finishing underhand with his right hand on the left side of the rim. Houston was running a lot of small balls. DeMarcus Cousins wasn't out there. They had no center out there, so that was pretty interesting to keep seeing that phenomenon, despite not having D'Antoni. Steven Silas is still you know in, initiating that. Rockets actually took over and took the lead in the second quarter. I think it was about 4 points or so. The third quarter, Houston was just eating at the line. It was everybody. It was not even just Eric Gordon typically, but even John Wall, even Tate, even Wildball, even DeMarcus Cousins just got to the line in a ridiculous amount, and they were just grinding the Wizards down. Um, Now to the fourth quarter, it's still kind of competitive at this point. Beal went cold in the fourth quarter. He was just missing like gimme layups, just layups that you obviously see him finish, and he's obviously doing crazy finishes all the time, or crazy step backs. But he just went cold, man. I don't know if it just taking 29 shots, I think it was, just kind of wore him down in the fourth quarter, and them having only maybe a real 5 or 6 man rotation, kind of took a detriment to them. There was an interesting point in the fourth quarter where John Wall was seeking out a G leaguer to take advantage in a pick and roll, right? Seeking him out. He think he was guarding. Can't remember who he was guarding, but he would set the screen. Oh, Oladipo. I think he was guarding Oladipo. Oladipo set the screen, so therefore you had to stick John Wall. That they were switching on defense. They being the Wizards. And John Wall was eating, and then he got to a point where he got fouled, and he's at the line talking shit to Westbrook. And Westbrook's not having that, so they're having a little talk back and forth, and they're trying to do it to a point where they're not getting texts, but ultimately they got double text when they got on the other side of the court when Russell Westbrook had the ball. Double text, and Westbrook was like, I'm not the one, just they kind of going back and forth. And what's funny is that after that altercation, Westbrook got the ball and he's coming out full speed. He's mad now. He crossed John Wall. John Wall he just kind of ambushed. He just kind of like bum rushed John Wall, and John Wall just kind of fell back and reached and fouled him at the last minute. And then Westbrook didn't end up finishing. But man, that's another highlight that to be, I guess, that could have been. We'll see if we can add that in.
Got to make it if you want to make the top 10.
Yeah, but still, that's still embarrassing. The way John Wall fell was like, damn, is your knee okay? Are you really 100%? Nonetheless, at the end of the fourth quarter, it wasn't even competitive at all. I think it was like trash time, maybe 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left. They sat Bill and then all the starters at that point. But yeah, not competitive towards the end. The Wizards didn't have enough manpower. Some individual stats kind of want to highlight here. Beal had 33. And you spoke on Trae Young being top dog in terms of free throw attempts. Bradley Beal, I'm sure, as you might have done your research, is top 5. You think he's right now number 5 in free throws attempts, which is such a like a skill at this point, man. Like you should develop that. You should, if you don't know how to do that, you should train with people that know how to do that. Everyone wants to train with Olajuwon to do the post moves, or train with
Dream shake, baby.
Yeah, like everyone. But people should actually train to get to the line, whoever it may be. And I think Bradley Beal's going for that scoring championship this year. I think he leads the league right now in scoring, and I think he has a righteous way to get there because no one else is really scoring that well on his team. Russell Westbrook didn't play too bad. I know he's not having the best seasons, and everyone seems like a star is kind of dying out, but he almost had a triple double. He was about 3 assists shy of a triple double. He did have 6 turnovers, and ugly turnovers. Ugly turnovers. And before we hit online, you mentioned that Boogie had 5 steals, partly because you do underestimate how long his arms are, but in part because Westbrook is just getting to the lane, meeting DeMarcus Cousins, and he's trying to pass it, and DeMarcus Cousins just picks in the pass, like very predictable, not very errant passes. So yeah, on the Houston side, on the visual stats, Boogie had 5 steals. He was actually 4 from 8 from 3, 50%. 4 for 8 from 3. DeMarcus Cousins dropping 19 points.
Must learn something in his time at Golden State.
John Wall had 24. Oladipo had 20. Neither of them the crazy good shooting percentage, but got it done. Eric Gordon, 20 off the bench, and he's pretty good at getting to the free throw line too, with 7 attempts, making 6 of those 7. On a team perspective, the notable team stats that kind of stand out, the difference makers, was the 3-point percentage. The Wizards 19% compared to Houston's more average, NBA average at 32%. turnovers, 21 turnovers for the Wizards, 14 to Houston. So obviously not ideal. And then free throw attempts. Houston took 29 free throw attempts. The league average is 22. So they're getting to the line. But yeah, I just want to end it on one note and one prediction. Houston will beat the Nets one game this season. Houston will beat
Okay.
the Nets one game that season. They have a squad. I don't think they're championship winners, but they're not to be thinking that they're a G League team. Now next, the Rockets have
Okay.
the Blazers on Thursday, and the Wizards have Pelicans tomorrow.
And so you got, just so I want to hear this straight, just so we, for posterity's sake, that prediction. We got the 11th place in the Western Conference Rockets at 7-9, and you got them beating the Nets one time this season.
Yes, and it might be
Okay.
March 3rd. I think is the game. Mark it down.
Okay.
We can watch it.
All right.
That's
We
an L
coming
for the
back. Coming
Nets.
back to the video.
They've shown that they don't have good defense. They've shown that they can lose. They're not. Obviously, they're still gelling. We'll see what happens 2 months from now. But I think the Houston Rockets have a reason to win that game.
All right. And I guess if there's one other question I had, it was the Wizards are looking pretty bad right now, looking pretty sorry.
Sure.
A Bradley Beal ending up with the scoring championship. I kind of like that, the scoring title. I kind of like that prediction from your end. That's pretty dope. Last year, though, in 60 games, the Warriors had 15 wins. As of right now, the Wizards have 3 wins.
Yeah.
Do we think, I guess, over under 15, do we think the Wizards are going to win 15 games this year?
Ooh. And how many? What are they at? 16 games right now.
Yeah, they're
So
yep.
what's 16 divided by 72? What's that percentage?
Oh, not even actually. No, they're only at 30. They're only at 13 games right now. I guess they must have missed. They must have missed some. Yeah, they're only
Well,
at
yeah, they
13.
did sit out for a whole week or so because of safety protocols.
Like less than
Yeah,
20%.
so we'll say 20% just for the sake of it. So times that by
Right.
5, 3 times 5 is 15. Yeah, yeah. I guess with some people who might get hurt, Westbrook or Beal might sit out a couple times. Yeah, I don't think they get this. I don't think they get to 15.
All right, final game of the night. Knicks Jazz. This one won't take too long. Yeah, pregame. I mean, Knicks were coming off a 2-game losing streak to Sacramento and Portland. It's been a little bit of a tough road trip for them so far. And but the last time they played the Jazz, Julius Randle did have a triple double, but that was 3 weeks ago, and the Jazz were playing a lot worse at that time. Um, since Tom Thibodeau's been the coach this season, the Thibodeau effect is real. The Knicks have improved drastically defensively.
Big time.
They're actually top 4 in defensive efficiency in terms of points per 100 possessions. Unfortunately, the Thibodeau effect is real offensively as well. They are a bottom 6 team in offensive efficiency, and I think that that's something Thibodeau's had issues with at other stops. But if the defense is stepping up, I mean, hopefully with all the draft picks they've had, they didn't draft anyone that was like a defensive specialist. So I'm hoping that those guys will help carry the offense
Quickly's
themselves.
looking good.
Yeah, exactly. No, they are. They are. Um, but yeah, on the Utah Jazz side of things, the Jazz last loss was actually 3 weeks ago to these same Knicks. But the defense has really fueled a turnaround for the Jazz as of recently. And the real question is whether the 3-point shooting is going to stay hot. They have just been killing it from the 3-point line. In terms of efficiency, the Jazz come into the game as a top 6 team in terms of points per 100 possessions. And defensively, they are a top 3 team in terms of points per 100 possessions. So something had to give here in terms of which defense was going to hold more. But yeah, I was looking forward to this game just because, honestly, for all the haters out there, I'm a Donovan Mitchell fan. People say that all he can do is score, and that's the only way it affects the game. But I'm hoping that he can prove the doubters wrong, I guess. I think in the playoffs, he's shown that he can definitely carry a team through a game. So that's what I was looking at to find. And I was just hoping that the Knicks didn't embarrass themselves. But in the first half, the Knicks would actually make me look pretty silly, honestly. It wasn't really anybody doing too much for the Knicks except for one man. His name, Austin Rivers. He was killing it. He got into the mix, and like if as much as I am a Donovan Mitchell lover, I'm an Austin Rivers hater. Honestly, for many years I've been talking trash about him. He made me eat my words tonight. He was getting to the basket. He was hitting mid range. He was finishing at the rim, and he was hitting threes. Once he got there, I wasn't checking who was guarding him, but Clearly, they wasn't checking him well enough. Yeah, he was doing this thing off the bench, but in the first half, he was 10 for 10, 25 points, 5 for 5 from the three-point
Wait,
line.
wait,
And
wait,
he was
wait.
taking,
In the first half, he was had 25 points.
you heard me correctly,
Okay,
in the
and
first
didn't he
half,
finish with
20,
25? I'll let you finish.
he finished with 25 points. I did bury the lead there, Bree, but anyway, we'll leave that for later. Yes, in the first half, the man had 25 points. Hopefully, we fix that one in post. Yes, he was doing his patented Austin Rivers dribble, 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 pull up for three on like a sidestep pull up for three. But he was hitting them, and the Jazz really kind of struggled, honestly, especially in the first quarter. They only had 18 points in the first quarter. Conley, Donovan Mitchell, and Bogdanovich had no threes made in the first half, and they definitely were taking them.
And this is a team that
Taking a look
shoots
at
a
the
lot of
shots,
threes.
this is a team that shoots a lot of threes, and they've been making them this year. So it was really kind of going against the trend of all year. And if you take a look at the shot charts, I mean, pretty much the Knicks shot chart looked good because of what Rivers did, which I don't even know if I've ever seen him play that well, even at Duke. But and then yeah, he was killing it. And then if you take a look at the Jazz shot chart, it was especially the zone chart, it was ugly. I mean, it's just a lot of red. They were below league average all over the place. The first half would end Knicks up 13 on the Jazz, 59 to 46. But in the second half, the Knicks are gonna nick. Rivers would not make a shot in the second half, as I believe you mentioned earlier, Paree. He would finish the game with 25 points. The Knicks had a serious offensive slowdown in the second half. It was pretty ugly. The offense got very stagnant very quickly. I was looking to see if Julius Randle could kind of spark some things, but it wasn't really happening. Rivers didn't have as many opportunities in the second half, I'm assuming because they decided to actually play some defense. The Jazz really got going off of getting in the lane and then getting drop offs to Rudy Gobert. He was really the only guy giving him some offense in the first half, but in the second half, as the outside shooting kind of warmed up, Gobert was getting loose. They were getting drop offs to Royce O'Neal as well. Conley was really keying the offense, honestly, in the third quarter. He was looking great. That's looking to me like an excellent addition for the Jazz, especially come playoff times this year. I think him having the ball in his hand is going to look a lot better than it did last year. Unfortunately, at times he looked a little lost as far as the offense is concerned. Yeah, Donovan Mitchell would finish the game with 19 points, and Royce O'Neal would lead the team in scoring with 20. In the second half, the Utah Jazz would outscore the Knicks 62 to 35. So after being down 13, they would turn it around to win the second half, to be plus 27 in the second half. Yeah, it was really bad.
Ask you
I'm
if you
sorry.
saw a different change in like their in Utah's coverage. Obviously, they made some kind of adjustment at halftime. Was there a difference in coverage that stumped the Knicks?
I don't even think it was really a change in coverage that stumped the Knicks because they were kind of holding the rest of the team down pretty well in the first half. It was just Rivers would just rise up low, late in the shot clock and keep hitting threes, and that was the Knicks offense. And the Jazz just weren't scoring. If I
Gotcha.
could say anything, it was the Knicks were playing great defense against the Jazz, and going the other way, Rivers was just hitting shots for him. And in the second half, the Knicks weren't playing as good a defense, and I think that slowed their own offense down because I think they kind of got demoralized once the third quarter comeback. The Jazz basically erased the lead in the third quarter, and they would take they would take the lead in the fourth quarter and just never look back. I
Gotcha.
mean, once the Knicks were down, you had no confidence that their offense was going to carry it. I don't think they were doing anything defensively that was too crazy. I mean, they got Rudy Gobert obviously back there; he's holding it down in the paint. But that's why when Rivers was hitting those threes, it was the Jazz didn't really change too much. I don't think they kept doing their thing, and they bet that Austin Rivers wouldn't hit 5 threes in the second half, and he did not.
Gotcha.
I think that that's kind of what Utah's been doing all year. They've been hitting three balls. Donovan Mitchell usually has better games. He didn't even play that well this game, but spreading the scoring around. They showed me that it doesn't. If Donovan Mitchell has an off game, the Jazz can still win games. And I think that that's something that Donovan Mitchell, who is the best player on their team, he can look to that, and I think they can steal a game or two, even if Donovan in a 7-game series, they can steal a game or two with their supporting cast playing as well as they did. Yeah, that's all I got, baby. I don't know. I wish I had a better question to ask you, but I mean, it's the Knicks of the Knicks, dude. Like, what do you want me to say? I was definitely
That's it.
focusing on the Utah Jazz
Say no
myself.
mas. Shout out
Mm-hmm.
Pablo.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
that's where I'm at with. But I guess, just a question to you, Puri. Where do you think this Utah Jazz team can ascend to or possibly fall to? They started off the season pretty
I'm not a believer, man. Maybe Western Conference Finals, but they're not beating the Clippers or the Lakers, whoever makes it to the Western Conference Finals. The Western Conference is going through LA again. Lakers or Clippers? We don't. I don't believe you, Jazz. I know you like the Jazz, but sorry, Jazz. I don't believe you. You
All right.
need more
If you,
people.
yeah, well, hey, I asked you the question, so I got to live with the answer.
Yeah, you wanna send us out?
Well, that'll do it for tonight in the association. Not the best games or not the most competitive games tonight, but it's always an adventure when you're talking about the NBA. This has been Above the Booth. Thank you for joining me and Pari tonight. We hope you enjoyed the new format we're working with and the interactivity of it. Please leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe below. Pari, you got anything for the people?